I'm Christian. Alex and I did French and Marx and Nietzsche and a bunch of other stuff together. At our final meeting on the morning of his departure from the castle, Alex claimed that everything is memory. That memory is the power to put past events together in new forms with a view to achieving two goals. The first is to change our present actions and shape a moral life. The second is to imagine a new world and start to build it now. We become agents of transformation only through the interplay of memory and imagination. Inquiring into the nature of this interplay was to become Alex's lifelong project. Alex's interview with Hans this spring was a first step in the direction of cracking the code that binds memory to imagination. At first, Alex thought he would bounce some ideas off of Hans for his economics essay on funding and neuroscience. When I suggested that he instead conduct a serious interview with Hans, record it, transcribe it, edit it, and publish it once he got to read, Alex burst out laughing. "What? Are you serious?" The idea was strange to him, but he immediately took it up, ran with it, and did superb work. It's a testament to Alex's resourcefulness and intelligence that he was able to hold his own with Hans, which is no small accomplishment for any of us. But Alex did more than that. He directed the interview with poise and brilliance. When Alex took fire and disciplined his wild side, he could do just about anything. Evidence of his prodigious intellect is the fact that before coming to Dewey, Alex had never studied French. But after only 1 year of hard work, he joined Emily and Abik as a leader of the conversation class. And shortly thereafter, he was writing remarkable poetry and prose in a French style all his own. During our last talk in the castle, Alex made the claim that precisely because our wounds from childhood persist into the present, precisely because the memory of those wounds plays such a significant role in shaping who we are today, we have the power to make radical changes for the good. First, by transforming the way in which we engage with or remember our childhood wounds. And second, by imagining how to act creatively in the world, not in spite of those wounds, but precisely through those wounds. The deeper the wounds, Alex argued, the more remarkable our transformations and creations. Perhaps the best witness to the truth of Alex's claim here is the trajectory of his own life. We all know how passionate Alex was about poetry, painting, music, and all the arts. I think we may also agree that his greatest creation was the person he became through his own choices and actions. He made of his childhood wounds not only a source of strength, tenacity, and perseverance, but also a source of light and radiance. Alex's beauty took an intellectual form with his intuitive genius, an artistic form with his writing and drawing, and a moral form with his friendships and his enormous capacity for intimacy. His memory enabled him to see into the struggles of others with uncanny, penetrating, and clairvoyant insight. And his imagination enabled him to address those struggles with a blend of severity and tenderness that is the mark of true wisdom. Back in December, Alex was growing in confidence about his capacity to put his wisdom to work for the good of the community. He made inquiries into guru status, but strangely, by the time February rolled around, the community was questioning his status as an older member. What happened between December and February? Had his acceptance to read gone to his head? Absolutely not. Alex displayed virtuosity as an intellectual. He was independent in his thinking and learning, but he was never arrogant. Alex knew that he had exceptional gifts. How could he not know? But he was always open and honest about what he didn't understand, and he was direct and persistent with his questions. He was never foolish enough to say, "Oh, if the teacher says so, then it must be right." He pursued relentlessly what mattered most to him. In our last parent-teacher meeting with Alex, Liz and I both expressed our admiration for the direction he was taking in his academic life. Had he chosen to concentrate on art, French, literature, and philosophy at Reed, he most certainly would have gathered laurels for his outstanding abilities in these disciplines. Instead, he chose to pursue work in the sciences, which would require a calculus class in the fall. Now, Alex had arrived at Dewey with a troubled relationship to mathematics. But among the papers he left behind in Micronesia was an essay on the origins of calculus and the writings of Pascal, Leibniz, and Newton. Intellectually as well as morally, Alex's metamorphoses were stunning. Perhaps surprisingly, my favorite moment with Alex in the classroom was not in French conversation, but in our concluding work on Marx's Capital. We attempted to outline the argument of the entire book. When I asked for a volunteer to go to the board and map out the argument, Alex took up the challenge, got about halfway through the series of paradoxes that structures the book, and then naturally he got stuck. We spent hours attempting to work through and articulate clearly for ourselves not only each paradox on its own terms, but also the relation of each paradox to all the others in the unfolding of Marx's argument. Alex stood attentively at the board and watched as Rohan, Razi, and Aaron in turn challenged, altered, and finally reconfigured his original design. Like Socrates, Alex embraced all improvements to his work with alacrity. His posture in learning wasn't defensive. On the contrary, he was happy to see his work taken apart and reshaped, provided that genuine thinking was taking place, and as long as the community was moving forward in a good direction. Alex understood that the point of the exercise was not so much to master Marx's text, rather it was to see that human thinking at its best consists in recognizing paradoxes and in exploring how one paradox leads logically to another, then organically to a third, and so forth. Alex did great honor to this pathway of thinking, and in his view, brain science was the privileged discipline of our time for practice in this art of pursuing enigma after enigma into ever new frontiers. Alex was at heart an explorer and a cartographer of human interiority, digging into its most hidden caverns and digging into its most revealing secrets. But his greatest ambition was not strictly intellectual, it was affective. His dominant passion was to know, as intimately as he could, those whom he loved. To infinity and beyond, we used to say to one another, quoting that indomitable Toy Story hero, Buzz Lightyear. You will have noticed that I have still not answered the question, what happened to Alex between December and February? It's an urgent question because the turbulence of this period lays the groundwork for Alex's remarkable advances in the springtime. With Alex, 2 steps backward was a sign that some great leap forward would soon occur. During and in the aftermath of his turbulent winter period, Alex spoke to me often about the woman question as the source of his fierce internal struggle. The phrase "the woman question" came to acquire a privileged status in our own talks. Whatever the topic happened to be, whether the history of painting or the limits of our endurance while working in Alaska or French poetry, we felt that we were reaching the heart of the matter only when we addressed it via the woman question. Why did we feel this way? I can only give you the brief answer here. Let me quote Alex, who said to me in a tone at once mischievous and humorous, "Like you, I also am a woman." Now, Sarah will share with us a passage from Alex's Nietzsche essay, in which he clearly pays tribute to Liz via the woman question.
Napoleon's mother has receded into the shadows of history, compared to the historic demeanor taken up by Napoleon himself. Napoleon, the man, the conqueror, charged with the connotations of warfare and domination, has a certain secret stashed away, one that is hidden behind every great man, a mother. She and others like her hold power and dominance over men, particularly over sons and husbands. Dominance must then be understood with more subtlety than is given it, for Napoleon's mother remains well dissociated from Napoleon, and yet she seems to have been the woman who ruled the man who ruled Europe. Who thinks of Napoleon's mother when they find him frozen in oils, hand tucked between the buttons of his shirt, golden chain to his pocket watch dangling gracefully across his plump belly, cheeks rosy and eyes aflame? Nietzsche does. And how does he think of her? One need only remember the role a mother plays in a child's upbringing. She birthed him, she raised him, she wiped him, swaddled him, and impressed upon him a certain vision of the world into which he would grow. Her influence is hidden but undeniable. Woman appears as the origin of action. Woman's close relation to her body, to physiognomy, strengthens the association Nietzsche implies between woman and metabolism. Just look to the morality of a mother. What value system is more primal, more basic, more rooted in nature? Is it woman, watching from the side and rich with her nature, who acts as the engine of productivity? Think back to Napoleon's mother, to mothers at large. The masculine controls, dictates, dominates the social order. The feminine nourishes, receives, and complies with the social order. Woman is explained to herself by men. She is pushed to the background and subjugated to the masculine. Today, feminists battle this structure tooth and nail. Nietzsche proposes that we embrace and intensify it. Why? Take the masculine order to represent the laws of nature, as immutable as number, as inescapable as the universality of mathematics, as the deepest, most rigid of laws. Take the feminine to represent raw matter, that which is constrained by the laws of mathematics, inevitably bound to such strict conditions that only one place in the known universe lets it blossom into life. However, it is by this very constriction, this cruel, unflinching force of mathematical physical law that forces raw matter into such a dense mode that it may in fact become life, I introduce childbirth. As we have already correlated the feminine to nature and shown how nature undergoes a certain concentration or distillation by way of its unflinching, immutable laws, so may we understand the feminine spirit, concentrated, distilled, and disciplined with cunning potency. The woman's and Nietzsche's most cunning maneuver is to transform enslavement into an expression of will to power. And what purer expression is there of will to power than to express life itself? Every childbearing woman has made this very decision, to affirm life, to affirm the world. In her affirmation of life, woman is the most high-spirited, vital, world-affirming individual.
Not surprisingly, a young woman acted as the catalyst for Alex's last great surge of growth in the springtime. Thanks to the fierce struggle he carried on within himself in relation to Sophie, Alex did, I think, finally achieve that inner strength, wisdom, and tranquility which are the marks of a guru. But what did he learn from his friendship with Sophie that allowed Alex to make that final great surge toward guru status? Something like this, I think, that love is a gift which must be acknowledged and expressed, yes, but that it's not enough to express love passionately. Instead, enormous discipline and thoughtfulness are required to express love in a way that is truly beneficial to the beloved. In an email to me from Micronesia, dated just days before his death, Alex spoke of his most stunning metamorphosis, which consisted of his passage from fear to love of a small child.
I am finally discovering my love for children. I'm just not afraid of kids like I was before because I trust myself, because I've taken control of my life and the decisions I make. There is a wonderful, cheeky, beautiful little girl here in Micronesia who captivates me. She's a true delight. I'm growing more open to children, more affectionate, warmer and more loving. I'm beginning to look forward to a family of my own.
In closing, Nitesh will recite Seamus Heaney's poem, Digging, which first appeared in a volume entitled Death of a Naturalist. It was my last gift to Alex. After reading it for the first time shortly before his death, Alex responded to it in a one-word email: perfect. Why did Digging speak so powerfully to Alex? Above all, because of his family heritage, his love for his parents, and his desire to honor Liz and Scott. But also because of his predilection for mud. Alex liked getting his hands dirty and found pleasure in the powers of his body. The activity of digging shaped his character. Digging is what Alex did best. In the last days of his life, Alex was digging into my heart. His questions were no longer those of student to teacher, but questions of friend to friend. Do you ever pine for anybody? He asked. Do you wish for a lover or a girlfriend or a wife? Do you regret not focusing more on life with a partner? At the end, Alex, in his own free-spirited way, was pursuing the woman question and doing what he did best, digging for intimate knowledge, bringing memory to life, and imagining new pathways to love.
Digging. Between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests, as snug as a gun. Under my window, a clean rasping sound, when the spade sinks into gravelly ground. My father, digging. I look down till his straining rump among the flower beds bends low, comes up 20 years away, stooping in rhythm through potato drills where he was digging. The coarse boot nestled on the lug. The shaft against the inside knee was levered firmly. He rooted out tall tops, buried the bright edge deep, to scatter new potatoes that we picked, loving their cool hardness in our hands. By God, the old man could handle a spade, just like his old man. My grandfather could cut more turf in a day than any other man on Toner's bog. Once I carried him milk in a bottle, corked sloppily with paper. He straightened up to drink it, then fell to right away, nicking and slicing neatly, heaving sods over his shoulder, digging down and down for the good turf. Digging. The cold smell of potato mold, the squelch and slap of soggy peat, the curt cuts of an edge through living roots awaken in my head. But I've no spade to follow men like them. Between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests. I'll dig with it.